They left me alone with twins over priorities. 2 weeks later, they were begging at my door. My name is Helena Parker. I'm 33 years old, and I've been a widow for 18 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. Not that I'm counting. Okay, maybe I am. Maybe I count everything now. Days since Daniel died, hours of sleep I didn't get, dollars I've sent to people who've never asked if I'm okay. I live in Boulder, Colorado, in a modest 2-bedroom rental on the 3rd floor of a building without an elevator, which means every grocery trip is a cardio workout I didn't sign up for. The apartment smells perpetually of coffee, the good kind from Ozo on weekday mornings when I have time, the terrible kind from the automatic drip when I don't, and baby wipes, because my 3-year-old twins, Gail and Maya, believe that every surface is a canvas and every meal is an opportunity for abstract art. I'm a financial analyst at Cornerstone Investment Group, a mid-sized firm downtown. The irony of being good with other people's money while being terrible with my own is not lost on me. I spend my days analyzing market trends, building portfolio models, and explaining to clients why their retirement funds aren't growing as fast as they'd like. It's detail-oriented work that requires focus, which is hilarious because I haven't had an uninterrupted thought since 2023. My brown hair is almost always in a ponytail. Not a cute, intentional ponytail, but the kind you twist up in 7 seconds while your toddler is trying to pour their own milk and, you just know that's going to end badly. My eyes are brown too, though lately they look more gray, shadowed by the kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. I used to be someone who wore mascara. Now I'm someone who considers it a win if I remember to brush my teeth before leaving the house. I'm slim, not because I work out or have good genes, but because I forget to eat. Breakfast is coffee. Lunch is whatever the twins didn't finish. Dinner is often pasta at 9 p.m. after I've finally gotten them to sleep, standing at the kitchen counter because sitting down feels like too much commitment. People call me reliable, responsible, the strong one. That last label is the one that nearly destroyed me. This story begins with a voice message, though technically it begins 18 months ago when my husband Daniel died in a car accident on Highway 36 between Boulder and Longmont. Black ice, a jackknifed semi, and a phone call from a police officer whose voice was so carefully neutral that I knew before he finished his sentence. But the voice message is where everything crystallized, where I finally heard what had been true all along. I was lying in a hospital bed at Boulder Community Hospital, 12 hours post-surgery, my abdomen feeling like someone had taken a cheese grater to my insides and then set it on fire for good measure. Appendicitis with complications, the kind where your appendix doesn't just get inflamed, it ruptures, spilling infection into your abdominal cavity. The surgeon had used words like peritonitis and sepsis risk, and you're very lucky you came in when you did. Except I almost didn't come in, because I had 2 toddlers at home and no one to watch them. I'd called my mother, Diane, from the ER waiting room. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The pain was a living thing, white-hot and insistent, radiating from my lower right side up through my ribs and down into my hip. Every breath hurt. Every movement was agony. I was sweating and nauseous and trying very hard not to vomit on the intake nurse's shoes. "Mom," I'd said, my voice thin and tight, "I need surgery. Emergency appendectomy. They're prepping me now. Can you please come watch Gail and Maya? Just for a few hours, please." There was a pause. I could hear voices in the background. The TV maybe, or people talking. Then my mother's voice, annoyed. "Helena, stop being dramatic. Figure it out." She hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand like it was an artifact from another civilization. My mother, the woman who'd given birth to me, who'd braided my hair for school pictures and helped me with science fair projects and told me repeatedly that family was everything. Blood was thicker than water. We always show up for each other. Had just told me to figure it out while I was potentially dying. So I figured it out. I called a 24-hour emergency childcare service I found through a frantic Google search while a nurse was trying to get an IV in my arm. I paid $200 for a last-minute sitter I'd never met, gave them my apartment code and instructions through tears of pain, and then I let the nurses wheel me into pre-op. When I woke up in recovery, groggy and nauseous from anesthesia, with a drainage tube coming out of my side and an IV pumping antibiotics into my bloodstream, I had 17 missed calls on my phone. 14 were from my mother. 3 were from my father, Richard. None of them were asking how I was. None of them were asking if I'd survived surgery. None of them said, "We're sorry, we should have come, are you okay?" They were asking about money. Specifically, they were asking why the automatic mortgage payment I'd been covering for them had bounced. See, 2 weeks earlier, I'd made a decision. A small decision, really, but one that would crack open my entire life. I'd stopped paying their bills. I'd canceled the automatic transfers that had been bleeding my checking account dry for over a year. I'd stopped being the family ATM. And now, apparently, while I was in the hospital recovering from emergency surgery, that was a crisis worth 17 phone calls. But my near-death experience, that was me being dramatic. That's when I realized something that should have been obvious months ago. I'd been funding my own invisibility. Every mortgage payment I covered, every credit card bill I cleared for my sister Clara, every emergency I rescued them from, it wasn't help. It was hush money. It kept me useful, kept me necessary, but it never made me valued. It never made me seen. This is the story of what happened when I stopped paying. When I let them come to my door, desperate and angry and convinced I was the villain. When my godmother Donna, a 73-year-old former bank manager with a bullshit detector that could penetrate steel, decided to ask one simple question in front of everyone. Who exactly has been sustaining this family? It's the story of receipts, spreadsheets, screenshots, bank statements, numbers that don't lie even when people do. It's the story of how I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop being strong for people who only love you when you're useful. That boundaries aren't mean, they're survival. That saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sane. If you've ever been the family bank account, if you've ever wondered what would happen if you just stopped, if you've ever been called selfish for having boundaries or dramatic for having needs, stay with me. You're going to want to hear what happened next. You're going to want to hear what happens when the person everyone takes for granted finally says enough. If you've ever been the family ATM and been told you're the problem when you finally said no, hit that like button. You're not alone, and you're definitely going to want to hear how this ends. I need to back up, because the voice message didn't come out of nowhere. It was the culmination of 18 months of slowly drowning while everyone around me insisted I was fine. It was the final proof of a pattern I'd been too exhausted, too grief-stricken, too goddamn well-trained to see. Let me tell you about Daniel. We met at CU Boulder when I was 24 and finishing up my finance degree. He was 26, working on his master's in environmental engineering, and he had this way of talking about watershed management and carbon sequestration that made it sound like poetry. I was working part-time at a coffee shop called The Laughing Goat on Pearl Street, perfecting the art of making small talk with people who were too caffeinated to realize I was dead inside from exam stress. Daniel came in every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:15 a.m., ordered a black coffee, no room for cream, he liked it strong, and a blueberry muffin, which he'd eat while reading articles on his laptop about environmental policy. And he always left a $5 tip on a $2.50 coffee. You're either terrible at math or really generous, I told him one morning after the third week of this routine. He'd looked up, and his smile was the kind that made you forget what you were worried about. Can't it be both? He'd said. That smile was the beginning of everything. We got married 3 years later at Chautauqua Park, with the Flatirons rising behind us like ancient witnesses, and about 30 people we actually liked in attendance. It was September, and the aspens were turning gold, and the light was that particular Colorado gold that makes everything look like a memory even while it's happening. My parents came. They sat in the front row and smiled for photos. Clara came late, left early, and spent most of the reception on her phone, networking, her word. Though I'm not sure who you network with at your sister's wedding. Donna, my godmother, cried and gave us a check for $5,000 with a note that said, "For your future." Not your family's. I didn't understand that note at the time. I thought it was just Donna being Donna, a little cryptic, a little too protective. Now I understand she was trying to warn me. She'd seen the pattern forming even then. Daniel and I bought a small house in Longmont, about 20 minutes from Boulder. Nothing fancy, 200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a yard that was mostly weeds but had potential. But it was ours. We painted the kitchen yellow because Daniel said yellow kitchens made people happy. We hung photos on the walls. We adopted a rescue dog named Bowie, who turned out to be allergic to most commercial dog foods and cost us a fortune in vet bills. But we loved him anyway. Daniel worked for an environmental consulting firm called Green Path Solutions, doing site assessments and remediation plans. I worked my way up from junior analyst to senior analyst at Cornerstone. We were happy. Boringly, beautifully happy. We hiked on weekends, Bear Peak, Royal Arch, sometimes up to Brainard Lake when we had a full day. We tried to brew our own beer in the garage and failed spectacularly. We argued about whether to get another dog or try for kids, and eventually decided on kids because, as Daniel said, at least kids eventually learn to use the bathroom on their own. And then I got pregnant, with twins. Of course you did, Daniel had said, laughing in the OBGYN's office when the ultrasound showed 2 heartbeats flickering on the screen like tiny, stubborn stars. You never do anything halfway, Helena. Why start now? Gail and Maya were born 6 weeks early on a January morning, so cold the car wouldn't start and we had to Uber to the hospital. They were tiny, 4 pounds each, and perfect and terrifying. All those monitors, all those wires, the NICU with its careful temperature control and hushed efficiency. But they were fighters. They came home after 3 weeks, and we were exhausted and broke and happier than we'd ever been. Daniel took his paternity leave and spent it learning everything there was to know about infant care. He woke up for the 2 a.m. feeding shift and whispered to them in the dark about photosynthesis and carbon cycles and how mountains were formed. "They're 3 months old," I'd mumble from bed, barely conscious. "Never too early to start their education," he'd say, and I could hear the smile in his voice. He died when they were 18 months old. January 15th, black ice on Highway 36, a semi-truck jackknifed in front of him. Daniel's Subaru went under the trailer. The police officer who came to my door said he died instantly. I don't know if that's true or if it's just what they tell widows so we can sleep at night. I don't sleep much anyway. The funeral was a blur of people I barely knew, casseroles I couldn't eat, and well-meaning phrases that meant nothing. He's in a better place. God needed another angel. Time heals all wounds. My parents came. They hugged me. They said the right things in the right tone. Clara cried dramatically at the service and posted a long Instagram tribute about family being everything that got 847 likes. I know because someone told me. I wasn't on social media anymore. I couldn't handle the performance of grief that everyone seemed to expect. Donna held my hand during the service and didn't say anything at all, which somehow helped more than any of the platitudes. And then everyone left. The casseroles stopped coming. The text messages dwindled from daily to weekly to monthly. And I was alone in a house that was too quiet, with 2 toddlers who kept asking for data, and a life insurance payout that would cover maybe 2 years of expenses if I was very, very careful. That's when my family started calling. Not to ask how I was doing, not to check on the twins, not to offer help or support or just a listening ear. To ask for help, financial help. Because I had resources now, didn't I? I had that life insurance money. I had a good job. I was doing fine. I was strong. And if I was doing fine, surely I could help them too. Here's something you need to understand about my family dynamics, about the ecosystem I was raised in. There have always been 2 versions of Parker daughters, 2 separate operating systems running on completely different rules. There's Clara, the golden child, the creative one, the free spirit who marches to her own drum and needs to be supported in her journey and given space to find her path. She's 3 years older than me, naturally blonde where I'm mousy brown, effortlessly charming in a way that makes people want to help her, want to solve her problems, want to rescue her from whatever self-created crisis she's currently navigating. She's been finding herself for approximately 15 years now. The search continues. And then there's me, the responsible one, the boring one, the one who has it together and therefore doesn't need help, attention, affirmation, or acknowledgement. The one who's expected to figure it out, handle it, manage it, and definitely not complain about it. This dynamic was established early, set in stone by the time I was 10 and Clara was 13. I remember the exact moment I understood how it worked. Clara had failed 3 classes her freshman year of high school, not because she couldn't do the work, but because she didn't connect with the teacher's energy and found the curriculum limiting to her creative expression. My parents hired a tutor, met with the principal, got her into alternative assignments. They spent hours discussing Clara's learning style and how the system was failing her. That same year, I got a B+ in math, my only non-A grade, because I'd been struggling with geometry proofs and was too afraid to ask for help. My dad looked at my report card and said, "Well, you'll just have to try harder next semester, won't you?" The message was clear. Clara's failures required intervention and support. My struggles required better time management. When Clara was 22 and I was 19, she dropped out of college 3 credits short of graduation. 3 credits. 1 class away from a degree in communications that my parents had taken out loans to help pay for. She dropped out because she didn't connect with the Western education paradigm and wanted to pursue authentic creative work instead. My parents supported her brave choice. They told their friends that Clara was taking a different path and finding her truth. When I worked 2 jobs, barista by morning, library desk by evening, to finish my degree without taking on extra student loans, no one said anything. It was just expected. That's what Helena does. She handles it. When Clara moved back home at 25 because her art collective in Portland fell apart, something about a disagreement over the collective's direction and who was actually doing the work, versus who was just holding space. My parents redecorated the entire basement for her. New paint, new furniture, new mini fridge. They called it her creative studio. She lived there rent-free for 2 years. When I struggled to make rent in my first apartment after college, surviving on ramen and taking the bus because I couldn't afford car insurance, I asked my dad if I could borrow $1,000 for a security deposit to move somewhere cheaper. He said, "You're in finance, Helena. Surely you can budget better." I could. I did. I always have. That's never been the point. When Clara decided to become a wedding planner, an experiential event designer, my parents took out a $15,000 personal loan to fund her startup. Business cards, a website, a booth at a bridal expo, marketing materials. Most of that money, as far as I can tell, went to a logo designer and a brand consultant who helped Clara determine that her aesthetic was organic luxury with bohemian undertones. When I asked to borrow $500 to help cover Daniel's and my wedding photographer, my mom said, "Well, you two both have jobs. You should be able to handle that." We did handle it. We always handled it. That was never the question. The pattern was crystalline. Clara's failures were sympathetic plot points requiring rescue, intervention, and unconditional support. My struggles were personal failings requiring better planning. Clara's needs were real. Mine were optional. Clara was the one who needed help. I was the one who gave it. After Daniel died, this pattern didn't just continue. It accelerated. It intensified. It became something uglier and more desperate. I'll never forget the first time my mom asked. It was about 6 weeks after the funeral. I was back at work, barely holding myself together, leaving the twins with a daycare called Little Explorers that cost $20,400 a month, more than my rent, and trying to figure out how to be a single parent to 2 toddlers, while also analyzing quarterly earnings reports for clients who got annoyed when I had to leave meetings early for daycare pickup. The grief was still fresh and raw, the kind that ambushes you at random moments. I'd be fine, and then I'd see a Subaru like Daniel's, or I'd hear a song he liked, or Gail would do this thing with his hands when he was thinking, the same thing Daniel used to do, and I'd have to lock myself in the bathroom and cry as quietly as possible so the twins wouldn't hear. My mom called on a Tuesday evening. I was making dinner, if you could call boiling pasta and opening a jar of sauce, making dinner. The twins were playing with blocks, and I was trying to remember if I'd eaten lunch. "Helena, honey, how are you?" my mom asked, her voice warm and concerned. "I'm okay," I lied, managing. "You're so strong, sweetie. We're so proud of how you're handling everything." A pause. "Listen, I hate to ask, but we're in a bit of a bind." And there it was. The transition from concern to request. So smooth I almost didn't notice. Their mortgage payment was late, $147, just this once. They'd pay me back next month when Dad's pension check came through and they could catch up. They'd never been late before, but there'd been unexpected expenses. The water heater had died, and the insurance hadn't covered all of it, and things were just tight right now. "Please, honey," my mom said. "We wouldn't ask if we had any other choice." I sent the money that night. I didn't really have it. My own budget was tight, and Daniel's life insurance was supposed to be for the twins' future, not for emergency bailouts, but I sent it anyway. Because that's what family does, right? Because I was so desperate for any kind of connection, any sense of being part of something, that even being useful felt like love. They didn't pay me back the next month, or the month after that, and by then, there was a new emergency. Let me show you what 18 months of being the strong one actually looked like in dollars and cents, in transactions and transfers, in the slow erosion of everything Daniel and I had built together. It was a Tuesday night, about 3 months before everything imploded. I'd just gotten the twins down for bed, a process that had taken 90 minutes and involved 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, 1 potty break for each child, a 15-minute negotiation about whether stuffed animals could sleep under the bed, to guard against monsters, and finally, blessedly, sleep. By the time I collapsed on my couch with a glass of wine, I was too tired to drink. It was 9:30 p.m., and I had about an hour before exhaustion would drag me under too. I opened my laptop, a 6-year-old MacBook Pro that Daniel had bought me for my birthday, back when birthdays included surprises and cake and someone singing to you, and pulled up my bank statements. I'd been putting this off for weeks, maybe months. I knew it was bad. I didn't know how bad. I created a new Excel spreadsheet. Column headers, date, amount, recipient, category, notes. And then I started entering data, working backward from the present into the past, each transaction a small cut, each month a hemorrhage. November, year 1, 1 month after Daniel's funeral, parents' mortgage payment, $1,947 monthly total, $1,847. That first one had felt reasonable, even necessary. They were struggling. I could help. Just this once. December, year 1. Parents' HOA fees, $285. They'd fallen behind, facing late penalties. Clara's car repossession fees, $900. She needed her car for client meetings. Monthly total, $1,185. January, year 2. Parents' mortgage payment, $1,147, now apparently my responsibility. Dad's prescription copays, $340, insurance changes, coverage gaps. Monthly total, $2,187, February, year 2. Clara's credit card minimum payment, $250. She was between clients. Parents' heating bill, $467, brutal cold. Snap, they couldn't afford it. Monthly total, $717 March, year 2. Parents' mortgage payment, $1,847. I'd started doing this automatically. Clara's overdue rent, $1,200. Landlord threatening eviction. Monthly total, $3,047. It went on and on. Each month brought new emergencies, new crises, new reasons why they needed help, and I was the only one who could give it. The mortgage became a standing obligation. The other requests stacked up like firewood. Utilities, car repairs, medical bills, credit card payments, insurance, HOA fees, small emergencies that were never actually small. By the time I reached the current month, April, year 2, 18 months after Daniel's death, I had to pause and double-check my formulas because the number seemed impossible. Total sent to parents, $28,742. Total sent to Clara, $10,449. Grand total, $39,191. $39,191. I stared at that number until it stopped looking like a number and started looking like what it actually was, my children's future. That was 11 months of daycare. That was Gail's speech therapy sessions that insurance only partially covered. He'd been delayed after Daniel died, and we'd been working with a specialist at $120 per session, twice a week. That was Maya's upcoming dental surgery to remove a tooth that hadn't come in right. $2,800 that I didn't have. That was the emergency fund I didn't have when my own appendix tried to kill me. That was Daniel's life insurance, the money he'd carefully chosen in policy amounts to make sure his children would be provided for if something happened to him. And I'd sent it to my parents' mortgage company, to Clara's landlord, to credit card companies for purchases I'd never seen and events I'd never attended. I created a second tab in the spreadsheet. This one was harder to quantify, but I tried. Non-financial labor, 18 months. Rides to medical appointments, 11. Dad's cardiologist, mom's dentist, Clara's therapy. Help with moves, heavy lifting, 3. Clara moving apartments, again and again. Tech support, 8. Setting up phones, fixing computers, explaining how streaming services work. Emotional labor, listening to Clara's problems. Countless hours I'll never get back, event attendance. Clara's showcases, mom's book club readings, dad's retirement party. 7. Research, planning, finding. Contractors, comparing insurance, negotiating bills. 6. Major projects, and then the third tab. The one that made my chest tighten and my throat close. The one that showed the exchange rate of this relationship. My requests for help, 18 months. Funeral help, week 1. Mom came for 2 hours, then left because it was too sad and she couldn't handle it. Babysitting for first solo work meeting, month 2. Agreed, then canceled last minute because Clara had a panic attack and needed them backup daycare pickup. Month 5. Dad said no. He had a tea time. He couldn't miss help during Twins Croup episode. Month 16. Refused. Clara had gotten into a fight with someone and was really upset. Help during my emergency surgery. Month 18. Refused. Told to stop being dramatic and figure it out. 5 requests in 18 months. 5 times I'd asked my family to show up for me, the way I'd been showing up for them constantly, relentlessly, without question. I'd been denied or abandoned 4 out of 5 times, an 80% failure rate. And when I did get help that first time, it came with complaints and an early exit. I saved the spreadsheet with a title that felt both clinical and damning, Family Balance Sheet.xlsx. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Donna. Donna Mitchell is my godmother, my mom's oldest friend from their college days at Colorado State, and the only person in my extended family orbit who'd never asked me for money. Not once. Not ever. She's 73, sharp as a surgical blade, and spent 40 years as a bank manager at First Bank before retiring. She'd given me that $5,000 check at my wedding with a note I'd found puzzling at the time. For your future, not your family's. She'd known. Even then, 7 years ago, she'd seen the pattern and tried to protect me from it. "Helena," she said, answering on the second ring. "I've been waiting for you to call." "How did you know?" "Your mother called me yesterday," Donna said. "Told me you'd changed, that you were being selfish and cold, and she was very worried about your mental state. She wanted me to talk to you, straighten you out." "I nearly died, Donna," I said, and my voice cracked. "Ruptured appendix. I asked them for help and they said no." Silence. Then, in a voice like ice, "Tell me everything, from the beginning. Don't leave anything out." So I did. I told her about the money, every dollar, every month, every emergency that somehow became my responsibility. I told her about the missed calls when I was in surgery. I told her about Gail struggling to breathe and my mother choosing Clara's fight instead. I told her about the voice message, the words, "Stop being dramatic," the click of disconnection. I told her about the spreadsheet. Donna listened without interrupting. When I finished, the silence stretched long enough that I thought maybe the call had dropped. "Do you have proof?" she finally asked. "Documentation? Screenshots? Bank records?" "Every transaction for 18 months. Every text message. Every voice message. It's all saved." "Good," Donna said, and there was something fierce in her voice, something sharp and focused. "Because I think it's time your parents heard from someone other than you, someone who doesn't need their approval, someone who's not afraid to ask uncomfortable questions." "What do you mean?" "I mean," Donna said, "that I'm going to call a family meeting, somewhere public, where they can't make a scene or storm out easily. And we're going to have a conversation about who exactly has been holding this family together, about what family actually means, about accountability." "Donna, I don't think—" "Helena, listen to me. You're not going to fix this by being nice. You're not going to fix this by explaining better or trying harder or making them understand. They already understand. They just don't care. Because as long as the money keeps flowing, why would they change?" She was right. I knew she was right. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, do it. I want to tell you that cutting off my family's money was dramatic and cathartic and empowering. That I called them up, read them a prepared speech about boundaries and self-worth, and slammed the metaphorical door with the confidence of someone who knew, absolutely, that they were doing the right thing. But that's not what happened. I just stopped. I stopped responding. I stopped sending. I stopped showing up to the role I'd been cast in without my consent. The automatic transfers were already canceled. I'd done that 2 weeks before the appendicitis, in a moment of clarity after paying Clara's ClassPass subscription, while I was eating store-brand cereal for dinner. I simply didn't restart them. And when the text came in asking for help, asking for money, asking for me to fix things, I did something that felt revolutionary and terrifying in equal measure. I didn't respond. "Mom, April 21st, 9:14 a.m. Helena, the mortgage is overdue again. Can you check your account? Maybe there was a technical issue?" No response. "Clara, April 23rd, 2:47 p.m. Hey sis, hate to ask, but I'm $200 short for rent and my landlord is being a total dick about late fees. Can you Venmo me? I'll pay you back on the 1st. No response. "Mom, April 25th, 11:03 a.m. Helena, this is serious. We're getting late fees now. The mortgage company called. What's going on with you?" No response. "Dad, April 26th, 6:38 p.m. Your mother is very worried about you. Please call her when you get a chance." No response. "Clara, April 27th, 10:22 p.m. Did I do something to piss you off? You're being really weird and it's kind of rude." No response. The silence was terrifying at first. I'd spent 33 years being the good daughter, the reliable sister, the person who answered immediately and fixed things and made problems disappear. Not responding felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, toes over the edge, wind whipping around me, knowing that stepping off would change everything and I couldn't take it back. But also, it felt like breathing, like surfacing after being underwater for so long I'd forgotten what air tasted like. I spent that week focused entirely on my kids and my life, like I was learning how to inhabit my own existence. We went to Scott Carpenter Park, and the twins played on the swings while I actually watched them instead of checking my phone every 30 seconds. We had dance parties in the living room to songs from Moana and Encanto, and I didn't cut them short to take a call. We made elaborate block towers and knocked them down with toy trucks, and I laughed, actually laughed, at their chaos. I read them the same 3 books 17 times each, because that's what they wanted, and for the first time in months, I didn't rush through it to get to the next obligation. I went to work and actually focused on my work. I finished projects early. I caught an error in a client's portfolio model that could have cost them significantly. My boss, Trevor, commented that I seemed sharper and more present. I didn't tell him that's what happens when you're not having a constant panic attack about your phone ringing. I slept. Not well, I had 2 3-year-olds, so uninterrupted sleep was a myth, but better. Without my phone lighting up at midnight with financial emergencies, without the constant low-level anxiety of waiting for the next crisis, I could actually rest. And I waited, because I knew it was coming. The escalation, the in-person confrontation, because that's what happens when you stop feeding a system that's been running on your compliance. It doesn't accept the change quietly. It doesn't just let you go. It comes to your door. It was a Tuesday evening, exactly 2 weeks after my surgery, when I heard the knock. Sharp, insistent, the kind of knock that says, "Open this door right now." I was making dinner, penny pasta with butter and parmesan, because that's what the twins would actually eat. And they were playing with their toy kitchen, having an elaborate conversation about whether pretend soup needed pretend salt, and if you could make cookies without pretend flour. The knock came again, harder. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents standing in the hallway. My mom was wearing her serious conversation face, lips pressed together, eyes hard. My dad had his hands in his pockets and was looking at the floor. My stomach dropped. They'd never come to my apartment unannounced. In the 18 months I'd lived here, they'd visited exactly twice, both times complaining about the neighborhood being too urban and the building having no character, and the third-floor walk-up being inconsiderate to elderly visitors. But here they were, unannounced, uninvited, because the money had stopped, and that was unacceptable. I took a breath that didn't quite fill my lungs, and I opened the door. "Helena," my mom said, pushing past me into the apartment before I could say a word. Not, "Hello," not, "How are you feeling after surgery?" Just my name, flat and accusatory, and then she was inside, claiming space. My dad followed, hands still in his pockets, eyes still avoiding mine. He gave me a small nod, his version of a greeting, and hovered near the door like he wasn't sure he wanted to be here. Spoiler, he didn't. But he was here anyway because my mom had decided, and Richard Parker had learned decades ago that it was easier to follow than to fight. "Grandma! Grandpa!" Maya shrieked with the unfiltered joy only toddlers can muster, abandoning her toy kitchen to run over. Gail followed half a second later, both of them crashing into my parents' legs with the force of small, delighted missiles. "Hi, babies," my mom cooed, and her voice transformed, went soft and warm and grandmotherly, the tone she never used with me anymore. She knelt down, her face splitting into a smile that looked genuine. "Oh, we've missed you so much. Have you been good for Mama?" "We made soup," Gail announced, his hands gesturing wildly. "Pretend soup with pretend carrots." "And cookies," Maya added. "Chocolate chip pretend cookies." "That sounds absolutely wonderful," my mom said, hugging them both. Then, without looking at me, without asking, "Helena, can you put on a movie for them? Your father and I need to talk to you. Adult conversation." The casual command, not a request, not a "would you mind," just an assumption that I'd comply, made my jaw clench. But I nodded. I got the twins settled on the couch with an episode of Bluey, turned the volume up just slightly, and then joined my parents in the kitchen. My mom was already sitting at my small dining table, her purse in her lap like a shield, her posture rigid. My dad stood near the counter, still not looking at me, studying my refrigerator magnets like they held the secrets of the universe. "So," my mom said, folding her hands on the table, "we need to talk about what's been going on with you." "Okay," I said. I stayed standing, leaning against the counter. Some instinct, maybe self-preservation, maybe something deeper, told me not to sit, not to make this comfortable, not to settle into a position of subordination. "You haven't been answering our calls," my mom continued. "You haven't been responding to messages. Helena, we've been worried sick about you. We didn't know if something was wrong, if you were okay, if the children were okay." "I had surgery," I said, my voice flat. 2 weeks ago. Emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix. I was in the hospital for 3 days. "Yes, I know, sweetie, and I'm sorry that happened, but that's not really what this is about." "You didn't visit," I said. Each word felt like pulling a splinter out. Small, sharp, painful. "You didn't come to the hospital. You didn't call to ask if I was okay. You called to ask about the mortgage." My mom blinked, her expression flickering for just a moment. Surprise, maybe, or annoyance at being called out, before resettling into concerned mother mode. "Helena, that's not fair. Of course we care about your health, but we also have real problems that need addressing. The house payment is 2 weeks overdue now. We're getting penalty fees, late charges. It's affecting our credit, and you've just stopped responding, stopped helping. We don't understand what's going on with you." There it was. the pivot, the redirect, from "we were worried" to "we have real problems," as if my near-death experience wasn't real, wasn't serious, wasn't worth their time. "I can't keep sending money," I said. The words came out steady, which surprised me. I'd expected them to shake. "Can't or won't?" my dad asked, speaking for the first time. His voice was harder than my mom's, more direct. The disappointment tone I remembered from childhood, from every time I'd failed to meet an expectation I didn't know existed. "Both," I said. My mom's face shifted. The concerned expression dropped like a mask removed, replaced by something sharper, colder. "Helena, we're your parents. We raised you. We sacrificed everything for you and your sister. We put a roof over your head, food on your table, clothes on your back. We paid for your education." "You didn't pay for my education," I interrupted. "I had scholarships and student loans. You paid for Clara's education, the education she didn't finish." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it seems like the point is that the mortgage didn't get paid, and that's unacceptable to you. But me almost dying? That was fine. That was me being dramatic. "You have a good job," my dad said, moving away from the refrigerator to stand next to my mom, presenting a united front. "You have Daniel's insurance money. You have resources. We're struggling. We need help. When family needs help, you help them. That's how it works." "I had Daniel's insurance money," I corrected, my voice rising despite my efforts to keep it level. "Past tense. Most of it is gone now. Because I've been supporting you. Because I've been paying your bills while you told me I was selfish for having needs." "Supporting is a strong word," my mom said, and her tone had gone icy. "We've asked for help a few times when things got tight. That's what family does. Family helps each other." "A few times?" I could hear my voice getting louder and forced it back down. The twins were 10 feet away. I didn't want them to hear this. "I've sent you almost $40,000 in 18 months. Silence. Complete, ringing silence. My mom recovered first, her face flushing. "That's ridiculous. It hasn't been anywhere near that amount. You're exaggerating." "I have every transaction," I said quietly. "Every Venmo, every bank transfer, every check, every text message request. I have it all documented in a spreadsheet. Dates, amounts, descriptions. It's $39,191. My dad's face had gone pale. My mom's mouth opened and closed. "That can't be right," she finally said. "It's right," I said. "I can show you if you want. I have 18 months of receipts." My mom stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Even if that number is accurate, and I'm not saying it is, we've always intended to pay you back. You know that. We've told you that repeatedly. You've never paid me back," I said. "Not once. Not even partially. Not even $20. Because we haven't been in a position to yet," she said, her voice rising to match mine. "But once things stabilize, once we get caught up..." "When?" I interrupted. "When will things stabilize? Because I've been hearing that for 18 months, and things only get worse, or more expensive, or more urgent. There's always another emergency, another crisis, another reason why you can't pay me back, but you can ask for more." "This isn't about the money," my mom snapped. "This is about your attitude. You've changed, Helena. You've become cold, hard, selfish. This isn't how you were raised. This isn't who you are." "Maybe I was raised wrong," I said quietly, and the words seemed to echo in the small kitchen. "Maybe I was raised to think that giving until I broke was love, that having boundaries was selfishness, that saying no was betrayal." My dad's head snapped up, his eyes finally meeting mine. "Watch your tone," he said. And there was the voice I remembered from childhood, the voice that meant I was out of line, being disrespectful, stepping outside my designated role. "We didn't come here to be attacked." "Then why did you come here?" I asked. "Because you haven't asked how I'm feeling. You haven't asked about my recovery. You haven't asked about your grandchildren beyond that 30-second hello. You came here because the money stopped. Let's just be honest about that." "You're being incredibly unfair," my mom said, and I saw something that looked like genuine hurt flash across her face before hardening into anger. "We love you. We've always loved you. But love goes both ways, Helena. It's not just us showing up for you. You have to show up for us too. And right now, you're abandoning us when we need you most." "I nearly died," I said, and my hands were shaking now, trembling with something I couldn't name. Rage, grief, exhaustion, all of it mixed together. "I called you from the ER. I told you I needed emergency surgery. I asked you to watch my children for a few hours. A few hours. And you said no. You told me to stop being dramatic and figure it out. Do you remember that? You're twisting what happened. I have the voice message, I said. I saved it. Your exact words were, Helena, stop being dramatic. Figure it out. And then you hung up on me. My mom's face flushed red. You don't understand the full situation. Clara was going through something real, and I wasn't? My voice broke. Your 3-year-old grandson couldn't breathe, and I needed to take him to the ER, and you said Clara's fight was more important. Your daughter was going into surgery for a ruptured appendix, and you told her to figure it out. What part of that sounds like love to you? This is exactly what I'm talking about, my mom said, her voice sharp. This attitude, this victim mentality. You've always been dramatic, Helena, but this is excessive. We're not perfect. We're human. We make mistakes, but we've been there for you. When? I demanded. When have you been there for me? Name one time in the last 18 months that you've shown up for me without me having to beg. One time you've helped me without complaining or making it about you. Silence. That's what I thought, I said. My dad moved toward the door, pulling his car keys from his pocket. Helena, your mother and I didn't drive over here to be attacked and disrespected. We came because we're concerned. You're isolating yourself. You're not returning calls. You're punishing us for reasons we don't understand. This behavior is unacceptable, and it needs to stop. What's unacceptable? I said, and my voice was steady again, cold and clear. Is that you've taken $40,000 from me and never once asked if I was okay. What's unacceptable is that you refused to help your grandson when he couldn't breathe because your other daughter's feelings were hurt. What's unacceptable is that you're standing in my kitchen right now, not asking about my surgery or my recovery, but demanding to know why the money stopped. If you can't see the problem with that, then I don't know what to tell you. My mom grabbed her purse and moved toward the door. I don't have to listen to this. Richard, let's go. Clearly, Helena has made her decision about what kind of daughter she wants to be. They moved to the door, and for a second I thought that was it. They'd leave. We'd be done. But my mom turned back, her hand on the doorknob, her eyes cold. You'll regret this, she said, when you realize what you're throwing away. Family is everything, Helena. And you're choosing to be alone. You're choosing to cut us off over money. That's who you are now. That's the person you've become. I'm not alone, I said quietly. I have my kids. I have people who actually show up for me. People who don't measure love in dollars. Who? Your little neighbor friend? My mom's voice dripped with condescension. Good luck with that when you need real help. When you need family. Don't come crying to us when you realize what you've lost. I won't, I said. They left. My dad didn't even say goodbye to the twins. Didn't even glance at the couch where Gail and Maya were watching Bluey, oblivious to the fact that their grandparents had just walked out. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. My hands were still shaking. My legs felt weak. From the couch, Gail looked over. Mama okay? He asked, his little face concerned. Yeah, buddy, I said, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. Mama's okay. I wasn't okay. Not really, but I was something else. I was free. I called Donna and told her everything. Good, she said when I finished. Now they've shown their hand. Now we know exactly who they are. Are you ready for the next step? What's the next step? You let me handle this, Donna said, and there was steel in her voice. I'm going to invite them to brunch. Somewhere public, somewhere they can't cause a scene. And I'm going to ask them some very simple questions about family, about accountability, about basic human decency. Questions they're not going to like. And you're going to be there to watch. Donna, trust me, she said. I've been dealing with people like this for 40 years. Your parents need to hear some truths from someone who isn't afraid of them. Someone who doesn't need their approval or their love. That's me. Let me do this. I hesitated, and then I said yes. The next few days were strange, quiet in a way that felt both peaceful and ominous, like the stillness before a storm. My parents didn't call. Clara didn't text. It was as if, by cutting off the money and refusing to back down, I'd broken some fundamental rule of the family ecosystem, and now I'd been ejected entirely. And the strangest thing? It didn't feel as bad as I'd feared. I went to work. I came home. I played with my kids. I made dinner. I did laundry. I lived my life without the constant background noise of someone else's crisis demanding my immediate attention and financial intervention. On Thursday morning, I dropped the twins at Little Explorers Daycare and headed to a coffee shop near my office. Ozo Coffee, the same one I used to go to with Daniel. I ordered a latte and sat by the window, watching Boulder wake up. Students heading to campus, runners on the creek path, dogs being walked. Normal life, continuing. My phone buzzed, not my family. Sarah, my downstairs neighbor. Sarah, coffee sometime? I feel like we haven't really talked since the surgery. Want to make sure you're doing okay? I smiled. Sarah had shown up for me more in 2 months than my family had in 18. Me. Would love that. Saturday morning? Sarah. Perfect. My place. 10 a.m. I'll make pancake. It was a small thing, but it felt significant. Like proof that family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. Who asks if you're okay and actually wants to hear the answer. That afternoon, Donna called. It's set, she said. Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, Walnut Cafe downtown. I called your mother and framed it as a concerned friend check-in about you. She thinks I'm on her side. She thinks I'm going to help her convince you to come to your senses. She has no idea what's actually about to happen. What if they don't show? I asked. They'll show, Donna said confidently, because they think they're right. They think they're the victims here, and they think I'm going to validate that. By the time they realize I'm not, it'll be too late. Should I be there? Donna was quiet for a moment. Yes, she finally said, but not at the table, not initially. I want you nearby, close enough to hear everything, but separate. Let me start the conversation. Let me ask the questions. And then, when the time is right, you'll join us. Can you do that? I think so, I said. Helena, Donna said, her voice softer now. What I'm about to do is going to be hard to watch. I'm going to ask your parents questions that will make them uncomfortable. I'm going to present facts they can't deny. I'm going to hold up a mirror and make them look at themselves. They're going to get defensive. They're going to get angry. They might walk out. Are you prepared for that? Was I? I didn't know, but I said yes anyway. Good, Donna said. Now I need you to send me that spreadsheet. Every tab, every transaction. I want to review it before Sunday. If we're doing this, we're doing it with facts, not feelings. Numbers don't lie, and they don't care about anyone's narrative. I sent her the file that evening, and then I waited. I need to know. If your family refused to help you during an actual emergency, would you have kept giving them money? Drop a comment. It helps more than you know, and it reminds me I'm not crazy for doing what I did. Saturday morning, I sat at Donna's kitchen table while she made tea and reviewed my spreadsheet on her laptop, her reading glasses perched on her nose, her expression growing more severe with each scroll. Donna's house is in North Boulder, a small 2-bedroom ranch she bought in 1978 for $45,000, a sum that now seems laughable given that similar houses in the neighborhood go for $800,000. It's full of books on floor-to-ceiling shelves, plants in every window, and photos of people she's loved throughout her 73 years. There's a picture on the wall of her and my mom at their college graduation, both of them young and hopeful, wearing polyester robes and wide smiles. I wondered if my mom ever looked at Donna now and saw someone who'd known her before she became this person who measures love and what you can extract from it. This is incredibly thorough, Donna said, clicking through the tabs. You've documented everything, dates, amounts, payees, even categories. This isn't just record keeping, this is evidence of a pattern. I'm an analyst, I said with a shrug. It's what I do. It's more than that, Donna said, looking at me over her glasses. This is proof. This is documentation of financial exploitation. And patterns, Helena, are very hard to deny when they're laid out with this level of detail. She clicked to the second tab. My requests for help versus their requests. 5 times, she said quietly. In 18 months, you asked them for help 5 times, and they came through once, partially and with complaints. Meanwhile, they asked you for help. She scrolled down. 47 times. 47 documented requests, not counting the casual, small asks that probably didn't even register as requests to them. They'd say I'm exaggerating, I said. Or that I'm remembering it wrong. Or that there were circumstances I don't understand. That's why we have this. Donna tapped the laptop screen. Numbers don't remember wrong. Bank statements don't have circumstances. Money either changed hands or it didn't. You either showed up or you didn't. This is objective reality, and that's very powerful when you're dealing with people who've built their narrative on subjective feelings. She printed out the spreadsheet, all 3 tabs formatted neatly, and put it in a folder. May I ask you something? Donna said, setting down her teacup. Of course. Why did you keep giving? I don't mean that as judgment. I mean it as genuine curiosity. You're smart. You're analytical. You must have known, on some level, that this wasn't sustainable. So why continue? I'd been asking myself the same question for weeks. At first, I said slowly, it felt like the right thing to do. They're my parents. Clara's my sister. Daniel was gone, and I felt so alone. And I thought if I could just help them, if I could just be useful, maybe I'd feel less empty. Maybe they'd... I stopped. Maybe they'd love you? Donna finished gently. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Oh, sweetheart, Donna said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. They do love you. I genuinely believe that. But they love your function more than your personhood. They love what you can do for them more than who you are. And that's not your fault. That's theirs. That's their failure, not yours. What if tomorrow doesn't change anything? I asked. What if they just get defensive and walk out and nothing gets better? Then at least it will have been said, Donna replied. At least the truth will have been spoken out loud, in front of witnesses, with evidence to support it. At least you'll know you tried. And honestly, Helena, what are you really losing? A family that only calls when they need money? That's not family. That's a transaction. She was right. I knew she was right. We spent the rest of the afternoon going over potential questions, likely deflections, and how to respond to emotional manipulation. Donna had done this kind of intervention before, not with family, but with clients who'd been victims of financial abuse by relatives. The pattern is always the same, she explained. First they deny, then they minimize, then they blame you, then they play the victim, and finally, if all else fails, they get angry and leave. We need to be prepared for all of it. What do you hope will happen? I asked. Best case, they hear what I'm saying, they recognize the pattern, they apologize, and they commit to changing the dynamic. Realistic case, they get defensive, they leave, but the seeds of awareness are planted and maybe, eventually, they grow into understanding. Worst case, they reject everything, double down, and you lose a relationship that was already one-sided. I'm scared, I admitted. Good, Donna said. That means this matters to you. That means you're still human. But Helena, being scared isn't a reason not to do something. Sometimes it's the reason to do it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. I left her house that evening with a mix of dread and determination. Tomorrow was going to change everything, one way or another. I just hoped I was ready for it. Sunday morning arrived gray and cool, typical for early May in Boulder. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. to Maya climbing into my bed and announcing that she'd had a dream about purple elephants and we needed to draw them immediately. Gail followed moments later, and any hope of a calm, meditative morning vanished under the demands of 3-year-olds who needed breakfast, needed entertainment, and definitely, absolutely, could not agree on what to watch on TV. I made pancakes, from a box because I'm not a miracle worker, and tried not to think about what was going to happen in less than 4 hours. Sarah had agreed to watch the twins from 9:30 to noon, bless her, which meant I just needed to get through the next 3 hours without having a panic attack. I'd barely slept. Every time I'd closed my eyes, I'd imagined different versions of how the confrontation might go. My mom crying, my dad angry, both of them leaving, both of them staying and turning everything back on me. Donna's carefully planned questions falling apart, me losing my nerve. At 9:15, I got the twins dressed and brought them downstairs to Sarah's apartment. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. You've got this, she said. Whatever happens today, you're doing the right thing. How do you know? I asked. Because doing nothing was killing you, she said simply. I watched it. So whatever happens today, it's better than that. I drove to downtown Boulder, my hands tight on the steering wheel, my heart doing acrobatics in my chest. I parked on Walnut Street and sat in my car for 5 minutes, breathing, trying to remember why I was doing this, because I was tired, because I was broke, because I'd almost died and they hadn't cared, because my children deserved a mother who wasn't being drained dry by people who called it love, because I mattered. I got out of the car and walked to Walnut Cafe. Walnut Cafe is the kind of place that shows up on Best Brunch in Boulder lists. Exposed brick walls, industrial chic light fixtures, reclaimed wood tables, and a menu that describes everything as artisan or locally sourced. It's usually packed on Sunday mornings, which was exactly why Donna had chosen it. Public spaces create accountability. People behave better when there's an audience. I arrived at 9:55 a.m. Donna was already there, seated at a table in the center of the room, not by the window, not in a corner, but right in the middle where sound carried and people could see. She was dressed in pressed slacks and a crisp blue blouse, her silver hair styled, her expression calm. She looked like someone you'd trust to manage your money, which of course she had been for 40 years. She saw me and gave the smallest nod, then gestured with her eyes to a table about 15 feet away, near the window. I went there and sat down, ordered coffee I didn't want, and tried to look like someone casually having brunch alone, not someone about to watch their family implode. My parents arrived at 10:03, 3 minutes late, which was typical. My mom in a floral dress and cream cardigan, her nice outfit, the one she wore to book club and church events. My dad in khakis and a polo shirt, looking like every retired dad in America. They looked like nice people, normal grandparents, the kind who bring cookies to block parties and complain about traffic. They didn't see me at first. They were focused on Donna, who stood and hugged them both with the warmth of an old friend. 45 years of history in those embraces. Diane, Richard, thank you so much for coming, Donna said, her voice carrying just slightly. Please, sit. I already ordered coffee for the table. They sat. My mom was smiling, but it was tight, cautious. She knew something was off. She just didn't know what yet. My dad looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, but that was his default state for social obligations. A server brought coffee and menus. Donna made small talk, asked about my mom's latest book club selection, my dad's golf game, how they were holding up in general. She was putting them at ease, or trying to, disarming them. And then after about 5 minutes of pleasantries, her tone shifted, subtle but unmistakable. So, Donna said, folding her hands on the table in a gesture I recognized from every serious financial conversation she'd probably ever had. Let's talk about Helena. My mom sighed, a heavy exhale that carried the weight of long-suffering patience. Donna, I appreciate your concern, I really do, but this is a family matter. It's complicated, and I'm not sure it's appropriate to... I'm her godmother, Donna interrupted gently but firmly. That makes me family, and I'm concerned, very concerned, because the Helena I've known for 33 years is kind, generous, and responsible almost to a fault. And from what you've told me, she's suddenly cut you off completely, without explanation, without compassion. Does that sound like the Helena you raised? My mom glanced at my dad, then back at Donna. No, she admitted. That's why we're so worried. She's not herself. She's become cold, distant. She won't talk to us. We've tried reaching out, but she just shuts us down. That must be very painful, Donna said, and she sounded genuinely sympathetic. Help me understand what happened. What changed? What was the inciting incident that led to this rupture? My dad shifted in his seat. We don't really know, he said. She just stopped talking to us, stopped helping when we needed it. Helping how? Donna asked, and her tone was still gentle, still curious, but I could hear the trap being set. My parents exchanged another glance. Financially, my mom said carefully. We've had some difficult months, and Helena's been kind enough to help us with a few bills here and there. But recently she just stopped, without warning, right when we needed her most. The timing was very hurtful. How many months has she been helping? Donna asked. Oh, I don't know exactly, my mom said with a wave of her hand. A few months. Since Daniel died, things have been tight for everyone. The economy, you know, inflation. Everything costs so much more. And how much money are we talking about? Donna asked. Roughly. My mom hesitated. I could see her doing calculations, trying to minimize. I don't know. A few thousand, maybe? We haven't been keeping close track because we always intended to pay her back once things stabilized. A few thousand, Donna repeated neutrally. So if I said $10,000, would that sound about right? Maybe, my mom said. Maybe a little more. It's hard to say. But it's not like we asked for anything unreasonable. Just help with essentials. Mortgage, utilities, things like that. Things that keep a roof over our heads. Donna nodded slowly. Then she pulled out the folder. Actually, she said, opening it and removing the spreadsheet, Helena knows exactly how much. She's kept track, meticulous track. Every transaction, every transfer, every dollar. Would you like to see? My dad's face went pale. My mom stared at the paper like it was a snake. Donna, I don't think... My mom started. $39,191, Donna said, her voice still calm but now carrying the weight of those numbers. In 18 months, that averages to $2,177 per month. Does that sound like a few thousand to you, Diane? The table went silent. Around us, I could feel other diners starting to pay attention, conversations dropping in volume as people tuned in to the drama unfolding. That can't be right, my mom said, but her voice wavered. It's absolutely right, Donna said. Every transaction is documented. Dates, amounts, payees, descriptions. Mortgage payments, 18 of them at $1,247 each. That's $33,246 just for the mortgage. Then there's HOA fees, utilities, medical bills, and that's just what went to you two. Clara received another $10,440. Clara needed help, my mom said defensively. She's struggling. She's trying to build a business in a very competitive field. And Helena didn't need help? Donna asked, and now there was an edge to her voice. Helena, who lost her husband? Who's raising 3-year-old twins alone? Who works full-time? She didn't need help? She has a good job, my dad said, his voice quiet but firm. She has resources. She's always been good with money. She had resources, Donna corrected, leaning forward slightly. Past tense. She had Daniel's life insurance money. which was meant to provide for her children's future. She had savings, she had financial stability, and she spent nearly all of it keeping you in your house. Her savings account is nearly empty. She's carrying credit card debt for the first time in her life. And when she had a medical emergency 3 weeks ago, she didn't have the cash on hand to pay for emergency childcare. Do you understand what I'm telling you? My parents were silent. Your daughter gave you $40,000, Donna said, her voice hardening. And you didn't even know how much it was. You didn't keep track. You didn't thank her. You didn't check if she could afford it. You just took it. And when she finally stopped, you showed up at her door angry, not concerned, angry about the money. That's not fair, my mom started. What's not fair? Donna said, her voice rising just slightly, just enough to make nearby tables turn, is what happened 3 weeks ago. Helena called you from the emergency room. She told you she needed surgery. She asked you to watch her children for a few hours. Do you remember what you told her? The color drained from my mom's face. You told her to stop being dramatic and figure it out, Donna said. Your daughter, who was potentially dying, called you for help, and you told her to figure it out, because Clara was upset about something. A fight with someone, I believe? What happened next changed everything in ways I couldn't have predicted. If you've made it this far, don't leave now. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. And if you're not subscribed yet, please hit that button. Trust me on this one. My mom's hands were shaking. You don't understand the full context of that situation. Then explain it to me, Donna said, and her voice had gone from gentle to steel. Explain to me how Clara's fight, a verbal argument, was more important than Helena's emergency surgery. Explain to me how you can accept thousands of dollars from a widow while refusing to watch her children for 2 hours. Because I've been trying to understand it for 3 weeks now, and I can't. We didn't know it was that serious, my dad said quietly, looking down at his coffee cup. Helena didn't make it sound serious. She said she needed surgery, Donna said. She called from the emergency room. What part of that wasn't serious? Helena has always been a bit dramatic, my mom said, and I could hear her grasping for footing, trying to find a narrative that made sense. She catastrophizes things. We thought she was overreacting, maybe making it sound worse than it was to make us feel guilty for choosing Clara. She had a ruptured appendix, Donna interrupted. She had peritonitis. She was septic. The surgeon told her that if she'd waited another few hours, she might have died. Does that sound like dramatic overreaction to you? Silence. But let's say you genuinely didn't understand the severity, Donna continued. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt on that. What about 3 weeks earlier when Gail had croup and couldn't breathe? When Helena called you and asked you to watch Maya for 2 hours so she could take him to the emergency room? You said no then too, because again, Clara needed you. For what exactly? My mom's face was red now, blotchy with emotion I couldn't quite read. Shame? Anger? Both? Clara was going through a very difficult time emotionally. Clara is 36 years old, Donna said, her voice cutting. She's not going through a difficult time. She's choosing not to take care of herself. And you're enabling it, with Helena's money, with Helena's energy, with Helena's sacrifice. You're funding Clara's extended adolescence while expecting Helena to function as an adult, a parent, an ATM, and a support system all at once. And when Helena finally set a boundary any reasonable therapist would have told her to set a year ago, you called her selfish. We never used that word, my mom protested weakly. You said she was abandoning you, Donna countered. You said she'd regret throwing away family. You told her she'd changed, become cold and hard. Diane, I've known you for 45 years. We were roommates in college. I was at your wedding. I held Helena when she was a baby. And I'm telling you right now, as someone who loves you but who loves that girl more, what you've done to her is unconscionable. My mom stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loud enough to make everyone nearby turn. I don't have to sit here and be attacked by someone who doesn't understand. Sit down, Donna said. The command was quiet, but absolute. And somehow, impossibly, my mom sat. You asked me to this brunch because you thought I'd help you bring Helena back in line, Donna said, her gaze unwavering. You thought I'd tell her she's being unreasonable. That family comes first, that she owes you. That's what you wanted from me, isn't it? My mom didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation. Well, you're not going to get it, Donna said, because Helena doesn't owe you anything. Not another dollar, not another chance to hurt her, not another ounce of her energy or attention or sacrifice. What she gave you for 18 months, what she gave while grieving her husband, while raising 2 toddlers alone, while working full-time, that wasn't obligation, that was love. And you weaponized it. That's not true, my dad said, speaking up for the first time in minutes. We love her. We've always loved her. We're her parents. We sacrificed for her when she was growing up. Did you? Donna asked, turning her sharp gaze to him. Because from where I'm sitting, Helena's been sacrificing for you for 18 months straight. She's given you $40,000 and asked for help 5 times. 5. And you've failed her on 4 out of those 5 occasions. So tell me, Richard, who exactly owes who? My dad opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. Donna leaned back in her chair, her expression softening just slightly. I'm not telling you this to be cruel, she said. I'm telling you this because someone needs to. Because Helena tried, and you didn't hear her. She tried to tell you she was struggling, and you told her to be strong. She tried to set boundaries, and you told her she was being selfish. She tried to explain, and you told her she was dramatic. So now I'm telling you in the clearest possible terms, you have been taking advantage of your daughter. And if you want any kind of relationship with her going forward, any relationship with those grandchildren, you're going to need to make some serious changes. What kind of changes? My mom asked, her voice small now, defensive but quieter. For starters, Donna said, you need to stop expecting her to fund your life. You need to figure out your own financial situation without using her as a backup plan. You need to acknowledge the harm you've caused, and you need to show up, actually show up as parents, not as creditors. We were never, my mom began, but Donna held up a hand. Yes, you were, she said. Maybe you didn't see it that way. Maybe you told yourselves a story where you were the victims, and Helena was just being a good daughter. But the numbers tell a different story, and numbers don't lie. That's when Donna looked past my parents, directly at me, and gave a small nod. It was time. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked toward their table. My mom saw me first. Her eyes went wide, her face paling even further. Helena, she breathed. You've been here the whole time? Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've been here. So you orchestrated this? My mom asked, and I could hear the anger starting to build again. You brought Donna here to ambush us? To humiliate us in public? I showed Donna the truth, I said. She asked to see the numbers, and I gave them to her. Everything else? That's just facts, and she's right about all of it. My dad finally looked at me, really looked at me. Helena, you have to understand we didn't mean to... To what? I interrupted. To take $40,000? To refuse to help me when I nearly died? To tell me I was being dramatic when your grandson couldn't breathe? Which part didn't you mean? We made mistakes, my dad said quietly. We're not perfect, but we're your parents. We love you. I know you do, I said, and I meant it. But you love what I can do for you more than you love me, and I can't live like that anymore. I can't keep sacrificing my kid's future to fund your present. I can't keep being the strong one while falling apart. I just can't. Helena, please, my mom said, and for the first time, I heard something that might have been genuine emotion breakthrough. We can fix this. We can work this out. Just tell us what you need. I need you to stop, I said simply. Stop asking me for money. Stop calling only when you need something. Stop telling me that Clara's needs are more important than mine. Just stop. My mom stared at me. And then, instead of apologizing, instead of acknowledging anything that had been said, she stood up. I can't believe you'd do this, she said, her voice tight. After everything we've done for you, after we raised you, sacrificed for you, loved you, and this is how you repay us? Public humiliation? Turning Donna against us? You've changed, Helena. You're not the daughter I raised. You're right, I said quietly. I'm not. The daughter you raised would have kept giving until there was nothing left. But I have kids now, and they need a mother who doesn't break herself to please people who won't do the same for her. My dad stood too, pulling out his wallet to leave money for coffee they hadn't drunk. We're leaving, he said. Come on, Diane. They walked out. My dad didn't look back. My mom did, just once, her expression a mix of hurt and fury that I couldn't quite parse. And then they were gone. The restaurant was silent for a beat. That awful, pregnant silence that happens when everyone's been listening, but pretending not to. And then slowly, conversations resumed. I sat down at the table, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me. You okay? Donna asked. I don't know, I said honestly. Did we just burn everything down? Maybe, Donna said. But sometimes you have to burn down what's broken before you can build something honest. And Helena, what you just did? Standing up for yourself? That's the bravest thing I've seen in a long time. The server approached tentatively. Can I get you ladies anything? Yes, Donna said. The brunch menu, please. And 2 mimosas. We're celebrating. Celebrating? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. You just set a boundary, Donna said. In public, with witnesses, with evidence, and you didn't apologize for it. You didn't back down. You didn't make yourself smaller to make them comfortable. That's worth celebrating. I laughed, a little hysterically. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal, Donna said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Boundaries feel awful at first, like you've done something wrong, but you haven't. You've done something necessary. And eventually, maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually, it'll feel right. I hoped she was correct. I really, really hoped she was correct. The aftermath came in waves, each one hitting at unpredictable intervals, each one threatening to pull me under. The first wave hit within hours. Clara, Sunday, 12:47 p.m. What the fuck, Helena? Mom just called me sobbing. You brought Donna to attack them in public? Are you fucking kidding me right now? This is so fucked up, I don't even know where to start. Clara, 12:51 p.m. You've literally lost your mind. You humiliated them. Over money. Do you know how shallow that makes you look? How petty and vindictive? Clara, 1:03 p.m. Mom said you've been keeping score of every dollar you've ever given us like some kind of psycho. That's not what family does. Family helps each other without resentment. Clara, 1:15 p.m. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. Mom's a mess. Dad won't even talk. And for what? Because we didn't drop everything the second you called? Grow the fuck up. I read the messages, felt the familiar guilt start to rise, and then did something I'd never done before. I didn't respond. I just muted the conversation. The second wave came the next day. Extended family, the grapevine activated. My Aunt Carol called, then my Uncle Jeff, then my cousin Amanda, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, then my mom's book club friend Patricia, for some reason, all with variations of the same message. I heard there was some kind of situation. Your mom is really upset. What happened? What can we do to help resolve this? I gave most of them the short, factual version. I've been financially supporting my parents for 18 months. I can't afford to continue. They're upset about it. The responses ranged from uncomfortable silence to awkward attempts at peacemaking. Aunt Carol. Well, family is complicated. I'm sure everyone has valid feelings. Uncle Jeff. Your mom's not perfect, but she's still your mom, you know. Cousin Amanda. Have you tried family therapy? But then there was my cousin Marcus, who I'd always liked, but rarely saw. His response surprised me. Good for you, he said simply. Your mom's been pulling this shit for years with anyone who'll let her. Someone needed to finally call her on it. I'm proud of you. That one made me cry. The good kind of crying. The kind that releases pressure instead of building it. The third wave was the silence. My parents didn't call, didn't text. For 3 days, nothing. The silence should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt ominous. And then, on Wednesday evening, while I was making dinner, and the twins were arguing about which plastic dinosaur got to sit at the head of the table, my phone rang. Just my dad, not my mom. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before answering. Helena, he said when I picked up. His voice was tired, flatter than usual. Can we talk? Okay, I said, stepping into my bedroom and closing the door so the twins wouldn't hear. I'm listening. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing, could almost picture him in his recliner in the living room, the TV on mute, trying to find words. Your mother is... he started, then stopped. She's very hurt, very upset. She feels ambushed, humiliated. I understand that, I said carefully. But Dad, everything Donna said was true, and you know it. Another pause, even longer this time. Yeah, he finally said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I know. I almost dropped the phone. I've known for a while, he continued, his voice gaining a little strength, that we were asking too much, that you were struggling. I could see it in your face every time we saw you, which wasn't often, I'll admit that. But your mother, she has a way of framing things, making them seem necessary, even urgent, making it seem like we had no other choice, like you were our only option. And I went along with it, because it was easier than fighting with her, easier than dealing with conflict. And that was wrong. I'm sorry. Thank you, I whispered. I don't know if things can go back to how they were, he said. They can't, I said firmly. I can't go back to that, Dad. I can't keep being the person who fixes everything while falling apart myself. I can't keep funding your life at the expense of my kid's future. I know, he said. I get it. I wanted you to know that I heard what was said on Sunday. All of it. And I'm thinking about it. Really thinking about it. Okay, I said. And Helena? Yeah? I'm glad you're okay. After the surgery, I mean. I should have said that first. I should have been there. You're right about that. Yeah, I said. You should have. We talked for a few more minutes. Stilted, awkward, but something. He didn't ask for money. He didn't make excuses. He just talked. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. And that was more than I'd expected. My mom, on the other hand, did not call, but Clara did. One more time. Clara, Wednesday, 9:47 p.m. I've been thinking about everything, and I realize now that you're not going to apologize or admit you were wrong. So I just want you to know, you've made your choice. You've chosen money over family. You've chosen to hold grudges and keep score and be petty. And I choose not to have that in my life. We're done. Don't contact me. I'm blocking you. I read it, felt a wave of something. Grief, relief, exhaustion, all mixed together, and realized I didn't have the energy to fight it. I typed one response. I hope you find what you're looking for, Clara. I really do. I don't know if she saw it before she blocked me. I don't know if it mattered. What I did know was that I'd tried. I'd set boundaries. I'd told the truth. And if that was enough to sever the relationship, then maybe the relationship was never built to survive honesty. The weeks after the brunch were strange. I felt like I was learning how to exist in a new ecosystem, one where I wasn't constantly braced for the next crisis, the next request, the next guilt trip. I spent time with my kids, real time, present time. We went to the park and I actually played with them instead of hovering near my phone. We made cookies and I let them make the mess without worrying about anything else. We read books and built forts and had dance parties, and I remembered what it felt like to just be their mom, not a crisis manager juggling everyone else's emergencies. I went to therapy. My first session, I cried for 40 minutes straight. By the third session, I was starting to understand the patterns I'd been living in, the enmeshment, the parentification, the way I'd learned that love meant sacrifice and boundaries meant selfishness. You've been trained to associate your worth with your usefulness, my therapist, Dr. Kim, explained. When you stop being useful, you feel like you're failing. But that's not love, Helena. That's exploitation with a loving mask. I started rebuilding my finances. It was slow, paying down the credit card debt I'd accumulated, rebuilding my emergency fund from zero. But for the first time in 18 months, every dollar I earned stayed with me and my kids, and that felt like breathing. I grew closer to Sarah, my neighbor. She became the kind of friend who'd text, "Bad day, want wine?" and actually mean it. Who'd watch the twins without making me feel guilty. Who'd listen without judging. And Donna became what she'd always been, family, real family, the kind that shows up. One afternoon in June, about 6 weeks after the brunch, my dad called again. "Helena," he said, "I want to see the twins, and you, if that's okay." "Okay," I said cautiously. "When? Saturday? I could come by. Take them to the park maybe. Spend some time with them. With you." He came. He played with Gail and Maya. He pushed them on swings and helped them climb the jungle gym and didn't check his phone once. And when they were occupied on the slide, he turned to me. "I talked to a financial advisor," he said, "about our situation. Your mother wasn't happy about it, but I did it anyway. We're selling the house." I stared at him. "What?" "We can't afford it," he said simply. "Not without your help, and I'm not going to ask for that anymore. We're downsizing, moving to a smaller place, something we can actually manage on our income. What about Mom?" "She's adjusting," he said. "She's not happy. She's angry at me for making the decision. But it's the right thing to do. It's what we should have done a year ago instead of making it your problem." "And Clara?" He sighed. "She moved back in with us temporarily while she figures things out. But I told her she has 3 months, and then she needs to find her own place. Your mother's upset about that too, but I'm done enabling it." Donna was right about that. It wasn't a perfect resolution. It wasn't a tearful reconciliation where everyone apologized and hugged and promised to do better, but it was something. It was change. My mom still hasn't called. I don't know if she will. And honestly, I'm okay with that. 3 months after the brunch, I got one final message from Clara. It came from a new number. She'd unblocked me or made a new account or borrowed someone's phone. I don't know which. Unknown number, August 15th, 11:34 p.m. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, and I want you to know that I understand now what you were trying to do. You were trying to make yourself the victim. You were trying to turn everyone against me and Mom so you could justify being selfish. And it worked. You won. Congratulations. I hope you're happy with your boundaries and your self-care and your new life where you don't have to deal with family anymore. Some of us actually value family. Some of us know what loyalty means. But you chose money. You chose resentment. You chose to hold grudges. And I feel sorry for Gail and Maya because they're going to grow up with a mother who taught them that love is conditional. That family is disposable. That's your legacy. I hope it was worth it. I read it twice, felt the familiar rise of guilt, the instinct to defend myself, to explain, to make her understand, and then I deleted it. Because there was no explanation that would satisfy her, no defense that would change her mind. She'd decided I was the villain, and nothing I said would rewrite that narrative. So I let her have it. Her version of the story where she was the victim and I was cruel. If that's what she needed to believe, fine. I knew the truth. Donna knew the truth. The numbers knew the truth. And that was enough. 6 months after the brunch, my dad and I have what I'd call a cordial relationship. He visits once a month. He calls every couple of weeks. He asks about the twins, about my work, about my life. He doesn't ask for money. He doesn't make excuses. He's just there, trying. It's not what I wished for, but it's more than I expected. My mom and I have spoken twice. Both conversations were brief, surface level, awkward. She hasn't apologized. I don't think she will. But she sent the twins' birthday gifts in October. Thoughtful ones, age-appropriate ones, with cards that said, "Love, Grandma. It's something." Clara and I don't speak. I've heard through my dad that she's still finding her path, still living with my parents despite the 3-month deadline having come and gone. I've stopped wondering when she'll grow up. That's not my problem to solve anymore. Donna and I have brunch once a month at Walnut Cafe, at the same table where everything changed. We never talk about that day unless I bring it up. Mostly we talk about the twins, her garden, books we're reading, life. "You look lighter," she said to me last month, "like you're not carrying as much." She was right. The twins are thriving. Gail's speech has improved dramatically. Maya's becoming a leader at preschool. They're happy, well-adjusted kids who don't remember the year when their mom was drowning. And me? I'm rebuilding, slowly. My savings account is growing again. My credit card is almost paid off. I got a raise at work. I went on a second date with someone I met through a friend. It didn't turn into anything serious, but it reminded me that I'm allowed to have a life beyond being a mom and a former ATM. I'm learning what healthy relationships look like. I'm learning that people who love you don't make you choose between helping them and helping yourself. I'm learning that boundaries aren't mean, they're necessary. That saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest. I'm learning that I matter. Thank you for staying with me through this whole story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose between helping yourself and helping people who wouldn't do the same for you, please hit like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments. It helps this story reach others who need to hear it. And stick around, because next time I'm telling you about the family member who tried to guilt trip me into co-signing a loan 6 months after all this happened. That one gets even wilder. Last week, Gail asked me a question that stopped me in my tracks. We were at the grocery store and he wanted a toy dinosaur from the display near the checkout. I told him no, not today. We'd already bought books this week and we needed to make choices about our money. "Why do we have to make choices?" he asked. "Don't we have enough money?" He's 4 now. Old enough to start understanding that money is finite, that choices have consequences. "We have enough," I told him, kneeling down to his level. "We have enough for everything we need and some of what we want, but we have to be smart about it. We have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves first, and then we can help other people." "Like Grandma and Grandpa?" he asked. I hadn't realized he'd been listening to those conversations, absorbing that dynamic. "No," I said carefully. "Grandma and Grandpa take care of themselves now. We take care of us. That's how it should be." "Oh," he said, considering this. "Okay, can I get the dinosaur next week?" "Maybe," I said. "We'll see." That night, I thought about what I wanted to teach my kids about money, about family, about boundaries. I thought about the lessons I'd learned growing up, that giving until it hurt was love, that sacrifice was virtue, that saying no was selfish. I don't want them to learn those lessons. I want them to learn that love doesn't have a price tag, that helping people is good, but not at the expense of your own well-being. That family means showing up, not taking. That boundaries are healthy, not mean. I want them to know they matter, not because of what they can give, but because of who they are. That's the legacy I want to leave them. Not a college fund built on my suffering, not a family held together by guilt and obligation, but a life built on honesty, reciprocity, and genuine love. And if that means the family structure I grew up with had to break, then it needed to break. Because it was never actually holding us together. It was holding me down. Here's where we ended up, 2 years after the brunch that changed everything. My dad and I have a relationship. It's smaller than it was, quieter, but it's real. He calls every couple of weeks, He visits once a month and actually plays with the twins instead of sitting on the couch scrolling his phone. He remembers their birthdays. He asks about my life. He doesn't ask for money, and I don't offer it. Last month, he told me he started seeing a therapist. "Your mother thinks it's unnecessary," he said. "But I think I've spent a lot of years avoiding hard conversations, and I'm tired of it." "I'm proud of you," I told him, and I meant it. My mom and I speak maybe once every 6 weeks. The conversations are short, polite, surface level. She asks about the twins. I give updates. She tells me about her book club. I say that sounds nice. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about what happened. We exist in parallel, no longer crashing into each other. She sent me a card on Mother's Day this year. It said, "You're a good mom. Love, Mom." No explanation, no apology, just acknowledgement. I cried when I read it, not from joy exactly, but from something like closure. Clara and I don't speak. I've heard through my dad that she's moved out of my parents' house finally and is living with a boyfriend. I heard she's working as a server at a restaurant while building her brand. I hope she's happy. I mean that genuinely. But I don't reach out, and she doesn't reach out to me. We've become people who used to know each other. Donna remains the constant. We still have our monthly brunches. She's become the twins' honorary grandmother, the one who shows up to their school events and remembers their favorite snacks and listens to their rambling stories with genuine interest. "You know what I'm proudest of?" she said to me last month. "What?" "You didn't just survive this," she said. "You transformed. You learned. You grew. And you're teaching your kids something your family never taught you, that you can love people and still protect yourself from them." The twins are 5 now, starting kindergarten in the fall. They're bright, happy, well-adjusted kids who think family means people who show up, people who keep their promises, people who don't make love feel like debt. They remember Grandpa Richard as someone who visits and plays trucks. They barely remember Grandma Diane, who's more of a concept than a presence. They know Aunt Donna, who's always there. That's their normal. And it's so much healthier than mine was. Financially, I've rebuilt. It took time, almost a full year to pay off the credit card debt, another 6 months to rebuild my emergency fund. But I did it. And now, every dollar I earn goes toward my life, my kids, our future. I put the money that used to go to my parents' mortgage into a college fund for the twins. It's growing steadily, with compound interest working for us instead of against us. I also started a Helena fund, money that's just for me, for therapy, for occasional dates, for the gym membership I finally got, for the pottery class I take on Wednesday evenings while Sarah watches the twins. I'm learning that taking care of myself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Last month, I went on a 5th date with someone, a guy named Marcus who's a teacher and a single dad, and who doesn't think my boundaries are intimidating. We're taking it slow, but it's nice. It's healthy. It's a reminder that I'm allowed to have a life beyond survival. And you know what? I'm happy. Not perfectly, completely happy. I still have hard days. I still miss Daniel. I still sometimes wonder if I did the right thing with my family, but genuinely, mostly happy. I sleep at night. I laugh with my kids. I have friends who show up. I have a life that's mine. And that spreadsheet, the one with 18 months of transactions and receipts, I still have it. Saved in a folder labeled Receipts, filed away in my cloud storage. I haven't looked at it in over a year. I don't need to anymore. But I keep it, as a reminder of what I survived, as proof that I'm not crazy, that it really was as bad as I remember, as evidence that numbers don't lie even when people do, and as a promise to myself, never again. If you're reading this or listening to this, and you're the person your family always calls when they need something, but never when you do, I want you to know something. You're not selfish for stopping. You're not cruel for setting boundaries. You're not wrong for choosing your own well-being. You deserve people who show up for you, not because you're useful, but because you matter. Not because you can give them something, but because they genuinely care about you. And if your family can't do that, then you get to build a new definition of family. One that includes the people who actually see you, who actually value you, who actually love you without condition or transaction. That's not betrayal. That's not abandonment. That's not selfishness. That's survival. That's sanity. That's self-respect. And sometimes, it's the strongest thing you can do. Last week, Gail asked me why we don't see Grandma and Grandpa very much. "It's complicated, buddy," I said. "But we see the people who really love us, like Aunt Donna." "Aunt Donna's not really our aunt," Maya pointed out with 5-year-old logic. "No," I said. "But she's family anyway. Sometimes family is the people who choose to show up for you, who keep showing up. That's what makes them family." "Did Grandma and Grandpa not show up?" Gail asked. "Not when I needed them to. I said honestly. But it's okay, because other people did. Aunt Donna did, Sarah did, and I show up for you, every single day. That's what matters. Okay, Gail said, satisfied with that answer, and went back to building a Lego spaceship. It's not a perfect ending. It's not a fairy tale where everyone apologizes and learns their lesson, and the family comes back together stronger than before. But it's real. It's honest. It's mine. And that's enough. I still drive past my parents' old house sometimes, the one they sold, the one I'd been paying the mortgage for. There's a new family living there now. I can see their kids' bikes in the driveway, their dog in the yard, their life unfolding in the space my money once sustained. I used to feel guilty every time I saw it, like I'd failed them, like I'd abandoned them. Now I just feel neutral. It's a house. They're adults. They figured it out, just like they told me to. And I did too, just not in the way they expected. The strongest lesson I've learned? Sometimes the people who need you most are the ones who deserve you least. And you don't owe them your life just because they gave you theirs first. You get to choose who you give to, who you show up for, who gets your time, your energy, your resources. And if that choice means disappointing people who never worried about disappointing you, then that's not your guilt to carry. That's their lesson to learn. And you get to walk away.